As the jewels glitter in Kate's hands, one question haunts the palace walls. Was this the Queen's final message, or a warning? 4 years, the royal jewels remained locked away, untouched, unspoken of, hidden behind layers of tradition and silence. But when Princess Anne stepped forward with a letter only the late Queen and she had seen, everything changed. Kate, stunned yet composed, accepted the inheritance not just as a symbol of status but as a puzzle waiting to be solved. What did the Queen want her to uncover? And why now, when the monarchy stands on such uncertain ground? As the weight of the jewels settles on Kate's shoulders, one thing becomes clear: this wasn't just a royal bequest. It was a test. Did the Queen suspect betrayal within the royal family, and is this her way of exposing it posthumously? And most chilling of all, what warning might be embedded within the jewels themselves? Find out the answers to the most sought-out questions hidden under the high walls of monarchy by watching the full video. Everyone saw the jewels, but no one saw the message, until Princess Anne revealed it. 4 years, these dazzling stones sparkled under royal lights, seen as mere symbols of status and tradition. But hidden beneath their shimmer was something far more powerful, a secret message from the late Queen. And had always known. And when she finally spoke, her calm words carried the weight of generations. This wasn't just jewelry, it was the Queen's final wish, a quiet coronation of spirit. Each piece was hand-picked, tied to a lesson, a legacy. When Kate wore the Cartier halo tiara, the world saw a bride. The Queen saw a future monarch, destined to carry the crown not by duty alone, but by design. As Anne later confessed, the tiara was never just a jewel, it was sacred, sealed with royal trust. There was no fanfare, no cameras, just a quiet, powerful transfer of legacy. The jewels whispered of a woman being shaped in silence while others stood in the spotlight. Now, those whispers are louder, clear, intentional, and haunting in their timing. With the Queen gone, Charles crowned, and Camilla at his side, why reveal this now? Perhaps the Queen's plan had simply reached its turning point. Each piece handed to Kate wasn't just adornment, it was a message, a chapter in a story the Queen began, and Kate now continues. Their sparkle hides meaning, their silence speaks volumes. And finally, the world is beginning to hear it. To understand it all, we must return to where it began, not with William, but with a quiet bond that made Kate the Queen's spiritual heir. A legacy not earned in headlines, but in grace, duty, and unwavering poise. Behind the royal curtains, away from the cameras, something deeper was unfolding. Queen Elizabeth II, with her unmatched wisdom, saw in Kate not just a duchess, but a future pillar of the monarchy. Calm, composed, quietly powerful. What began as polite chats turned into private briefings. The Queen, never one for grand declarations, showed her intentions through action, inviting Kate into rooms others never entered, sharing reflections from a reign shaped by scandal, war, and triumph. These weren't lessons in etiquette, they were survival strategies. Slowly, Kate's public grace was matched by a deeper confidence. She no longer stood beside royalty, she became it. Meanwhile, Camilla, despite her long journey to acceptance, sensed the shift. The Queen's silent favoritism was subtle but real. Whispers echoed through the palace. Kate is being prepared. But for what? Only Princess Anne seemed to know the answer. She watched closely, the flickers in her mother's eyes, the deliberate moments Kate was pulled aside, included, and subtly elevated. The Queen never said it aloud, but her every gesture made it clear. Kate was chosen not just by bloodline, but by spirit. Each private assignment, every quiet moment at the center of royal life, laid the foundation long before the world noticed. As Kate absorbed the Queen's wisdom, Camilla felt the shift. Hers was a rise forged in scandal and endurance, always the outsider, the disruptor of a fairy tale. Despite the whispers and rejection, she stayed, waited, and through sheer persistence, turned public scorn into reluctant acceptance. From pariah to queen consort, her journey was anything but graceful. Ask ChatGPT. Camilla weathered the storm, but Kate Middleton learned how to master the winds. Kate arrived with no scandal, no baggage. Just poise, calm, and a quiet strength that quickly earned public admiration. While Camilla was embraced for loyalty and stability, Kate was shaped for something greater. Queen Elizabeth supported both women, but not in the same way. With Camilla, it was duty. With Kate, it was legacy. Behind closed doors, the quiet divide was unmistakable. At public events, the Queen's gaze always seemed to linger on Kate just a moment longer. Then came the Platinum Jubilee, a grand farewell. Camilla received the title of Queen Consort, but Kate was placed front and center, beside William, beside the future. To most, it seemed balanced. But to those who understood the palace's language, it was clear. One woman had been acknowledged, the other, chosen. Princess and watched in silence, recognizing the Queen's final move. This wasn't equality, it was a passing of the torch. A subtle shift in power, from the present to the future Queen in waiting. Then came the final, silent confirmation, a gift passed through time into Kate's hands. These weren't just jewels, they were Queen Elizabeth's private message, delivered without fanfare, without words. No announcement, no press release. Just a quiet, historic exchange. Princess and, ever reserved, let it slip with calm precision. The Queen had passed her most personal pieces not to Camilla, not even to her own daughter, but to Kate. And just like that, everything shifted. These weren't showpieces for state events. They were treasures worn in solitude, filled with memories and meaning only the Queen understood. At the heart of them was the Cartier halo tiara, believed to be borrowed for Kate's wedding, but now revealed as handpicked and inherited. This wasn't a simple gesture. It was a declaration. Kate wasn't just accepted into the royal family, she was chosen to carry it forward. Camilla had earned her title, but Kate was being entrusted with legacy. And Anne's quiet words sent ripples through the palace that haven't settled since. These jewels didn't just sparkle, they spoke. They carried a quiet trust beyond royal titles, a belief that tradition must evolve. When Princess Anne revealed the Queen's hidden message, it wasn't a simple gesture, it was a silent shift in power, written not in ink, but in diamonds and memory. Kate hadn't just inherited jewels, she inherited a legacy. And with every gem she wore, Diana's presence returned, haunting Camilla in ways no one predicted. It started with the ring, a 12-carat sapphire once worn by Diana, now on Kate's hand. It wasn't just a proposal, it was a resurrection. Each time Kate appeared in Diana's favorite pearls or sapphire earrings, history seemed to repeat itself. Especially when she restored the original design during the Queen's Jubilee, it wasn't fashion, it was a message. Camilla, once rebranded and crowned, now faced Diana's legacy rising again, through Kate, and through the jewels that spoke louder than any words ever could. Kate's style choices weren't just about honoring Diana, they reflected something deeper. She wasn't imitating the late princess, she was evolving her legacy. Kate embodied Diana's empathy, quiet strength, and subtle rebellion, drawing public admiration and press attention. The contrast with Camilla grew starker. While Camilla remained a symbol of duty, Kate became a symbol of possibility, a bridge between past and future. Despite Camilla's unwavering loyalty to Charles and the crown, the public's affection leaned toward Kate. She didn't just inherit Diana's title, she channeled her spirit. Then, after Queen Elizabeth's death and Charles's coronation, everything quietly shifted. Power moved subtly but unmistakably toward William and Kate. And when they were named Prince and Princess of Wales, a title once Diana's, the gesture was more than ceremonial. It was emotional. It was symbolic. And for those still bound to Diana's memory, especially Camilla, it was a chilling reminder of whose legacy truly lived on. Suddenly, every headline featured Kate. Cameras followed her, not the new king or queen. She wore Diana's ring, her earrings, and now, carried her legacy. Camilla may have been crowned, but public affection shifted, quietly yet unmistakably, to Kate. This wasn't about fashion or formality. It was about who truly embodied the spirit of the crown. Camilla had waited a lifetime for acceptance, endured criticism, and finally reached the throne. But in the eyes of many, it was Kate who held their hearts. Kate didn't seek attention, she drew it. She didn't replace Diana, but she reminded the world of her grace. While Camilla wore the crown, it was Kate who carried the people's hope. And that's where the quiet pain began, because love can't be claimed. It's earned. What came next didn't need headlines. It came in diamonds, pearls, and quiet legacy. Kate entered without fanfare, yet now stands where queens once did. No royal decree marked her rise, only steady grace and quiet strength. While the world searched for scandal, she gave none. While others stumbled, she stood firm. She became the monarchy's most trusted face, balancing tradition with modern grace. Behind every polished appearance was a mother of three, carrying immense responsibility with unwavering poise. Her gestures were warm, her words measured. She didn't demand the spotlight, she earned it. And perhaps that's her greatest strength. Each heirloom she wore wasn't just for show, it was a message. When she wore Queen Elizabeth's chandelier earrings, it wasn't just tribute, it was a quiet, powerful declaration. What came next didn't need a press release, it came in diamonds, pearls, and a quiet legacy. Kate entered softly, but now she stands where queens once did. There was no dramatic rise, no fireworks, just steady grace. While the world searched for scandal, she gave them none. While others faltered, she stood firm. Behind her polished presence is a woman balancing royal duty and motherhood, mastering both with quiet strength. Every word, every gesture, was intentional, measured, yet warm. She didn't demand the spotlight, she earned it. Her true power? Respect. Even her jewelry spoke volumes. Each piece was more than an accessory. It was a message. When she wore Queen Elizabeth's Granville chandelier earrings, she wasn't just honoring the past, she was stepping into its future. He continued, she simply learned how to carry it better than anyone before her. Yet behind the calm surface lies a storm, the silent competition still bruised beneath the crown. She became queen, but never the people's queen. Camilla had reached the summit after decades of waiting in the wings. She now stood beside the king, wearing a title that had once seemed unattainable. But behind the smiles, the ceremonial gowns, and the quiet grace with which she carried her role, there lingered a truth too painful to ignore. Acceptance had never fully come, not from the press, not from the public, and not from the shadow that followed her everywhere. The ghost of Diana, now reborn in Kate. It was supposed to be a triumph, her moment. Yet every time Kate stepped forward wearing Diana's ring, Diana's earrings, Diana's title, the crowd didn't cheer for the present, they cheered for a memory. And Camilla, no matter how loyal, no matter how beautiful, watched herself being compared to a woman who had long since passed and to another who was quickly rising. The contrast was brutal. The warmth Kate drew from the public came effortlessly. Camilla had fought for decades and still found herself on the fringes of affection. She had sacrificed more than anyone knew. She gave up her privacy, her peace, even her reputation, all for Charles. She stood by him when the world turned its back. She endured public humiliation, became the subject of scandal, and bore the burden of rebuilding not only her image but his. Her loyalty had never wavered. But now, as queen, she often found herself sidelined, forgotten, even as the cameras panned left toward Kate, as headlines praised the future queen while barely mentioning the woman who held that crown now. The subtle moments hurt the most, a glance overlooked at a state dinner, a social media post celebrating Kate's grace under pressure with no mention of Camilla's decades of unwavering service. Royal correspondents speculated on Kate's impact while ignoring Camilla's steadiness. These weren't open insults, they were quiet dismissals. And yet she said nothing. She smiled. She carried on. Because that's what she had always done. That was her strength. Quiet endurance, stoic commitment. But even the strongest heart bruises when the world refuses to see it beating. The comparisons became inescapable. Diana had once been adored for her vulnerability. Kate was admired for her composure. Camilla, somehow, was left caught in between, painted as neither victim nor visionary, just there, always present, yet never embraced. And that reality cut deeper than most would ever realize, especially because she knew, deep down, that she had done everything right. But sometimes, history doesn't reward those who sacrifice. It rewards those who symbolize. And that is what Kate had become. The symbol of a reborn monarchy, a hopeful bridge between past and future. He continued, while Camilla stood as a reminder of a painful chapter most wanted to forget. She bore the weight of decisions she never made and reputations she never asked to inherit. And though she now wore a crown, she carried it alone. But the Queen's final gift wasn't just about jewels, it was about legacy. And that legacy had one final chapter. The Queen's final treasures were passed in silence, but they speak louder than any words ever could. No fanfare, no announcement, just a quiet act of legacy. The Granville chandelier earrings. The breathtaking Nizam of Hyderabad necklace. The iconic sapphire ring once worn by Diana. Each one a jewel steeped in generations of power, grief, and transformation. And now, each one rests with Catherine, not because of blood, not because of rank, but because of meaning. These weren't simply royal hand-me-downs, they were carefully selected messages from a monarch who always thought decades ahead. Queen Elizabeth didn't crown Kate with words. She did it with inheritance. Silent, stunning, irreversible. In Kate's hands, these heirlooms ceased to be objects. They became signals. With each outing, each appearance, she isn't just wearing history, she's shaping it. The Granville earrings, once worn by the Queen Mother in moments of political gravity, now adorn a woman stepping into leadership with effortless dignity. The Nizam necklace, one of the most opulent gifts in royal history, no longer whispers of the empire's past. It now glimmers as a symbol of regal modernity, worn with ease by a woman who bridges tradition with evolution. And Diana's ring. That ring pulses with memory, binding Kate to a story that was never hers, yet now belongs to her entirely. What makes this transformation more haunting and more powerful is its subtlety. Kate was never born to this. She didn't arrive with pedigree or palace ties. She was an outsider, a commoner, and yet she never stumbled. She never asked for permission. She simply grew into the room, into the role, into the crown that hadn't yet been placed on her head, but had already found its way to her spirit. That quiet ascension speaks louder than any royal protocol ever could. It tells a tale of purpose, of preparation, of a woman who didn't inherit the monarchy, but was chosen to carry it. King Charles reigns, and his presence anchors the institution. But Kate is the movement within it, the forward motion, the promise. She doesn't overshadow him, but she doesn't need to. The people already see her as the next phase. The monarchy has shifted its gaze, not away from the past, but toward a future that wears a sapphire ring and a steely grace. And in that shift, Princess Anne's words ring with piercing clarity. These were always meant for her. Not just the jewels, but the weight, the meaning, the future. These treasures no longer belong behind velvet glass cases or locked palace vaults. They breathe again, on Kate. They tell stories of queens who loved deeply, ruled fiercely, and carried burdens with unshakable poise. But now, they tell a new story. A story not of what was, but of what will be. As Kate steps into her destiny, one thing becomes clear. The jewels may sparkle, but the woman wearing them outshines them all. But this is only the beginning. Behind palace walls, more secrets wait to be uncovered. Stories untold, whispers unheard, and shadows the crown would rather keep hidden. What other truths lie beneath the glittering surface of royalty? What power plays and betrayals are yet to unfold? Stay with us as we continue to peel back the velvet curtain and reveal the monarchy as you've never seen it before. Subscribe now, because the next revelation might just change everything.